and welcome. Welcome back to episode 14 of Whether or Not. I'm Stella Q, and I'm glad that you're joining us here because have we got an acronym for you? Because there can never be enough acronyms, right? So today's show is brought to you by the letters E, I, S, C, A, and T. And I suspect we won't be watching our P's and Q's either. But we will be crossing our T's and dotting our I's and probably crossing our I's and spiking our T by the end of this one. So, what the heck is an EISCAT anyway? I hear you ask from back here in the future. Well, Jeff and I are delighted and somewhat relieved that we know a guy, and you probably do too. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming our very first guest to Whether or Not. He's smart, he's funny, he's the one and only Jim Lee from climateviewer.com, which if you don't know by now, is the place to be, darling, for all things climatey and weathery and spacey and techie. And this is a man who has acronyms coming out of his ears and all sorts of places. And he has a meticulous understanding of these things and happens to be gifted enough with the gab to pack it all into plain relatable language so that one can gain at least a basic understanding of what an EISCAT thingy actually is, and what it's not, and a bunch of other whatnot. We drift into a bit of banter on improper propaganda, and we take a quick look at the aura phenomenon too. Because I have questions, and I want answers, and I have Jim Lee here in the hot seat. So, enough Babylon, let's get this show on the air. Does this EISCAT thingy affect the weather or not? Hello Jeff, it's good to see you again. How are you going?
Hey Stella, doing very excellent. How about yourself?
Oh, very good, thank you. I am very honoured and pleased and privileged to welcome Jim Lee to our show. Hello Jim, how are you going? Thank you for joining us.
All my life want to fight about it.
Now you behave yourself.
I can't make any promises. Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be on Whether or Not. I can say that.
Well, thank you for the inspiration.
Big
because
fan.
Big fan. Oh, we have an audience. Excellent. All right. Jeff, would you like to say anything before we pass it over to Mr. Lee?
Yes, Mr. Lee's going to talk about EISCAT. It's way easier for Jim to talk about it. He is the expert on this. He's got a lot on his website at Climate Viewer, and I think you just turn it over to Jim.
Well, I was digging through my X notifications trying to make it back to October, and I've been scrolling viciously and made it to November 2nd, and then it just went. But several people sent me, they added me on X, and they're like, at Climate Viewer, did you see this radar? At Climate Viewer, do you think the HAARP had anything to do with this storm? At Climate Viewer, what about the Tromso array? And I'm like, dude, you're like, at least, you know that there is a Tromso array. Like, I'll give you credit there because like most people are blaming HAARP way the hell over in Alaska, which is really weird. But I guess we need to get into what, some of the basics to begin with. What is EISCAT? And why does it even matter? What is a ionospheric heater? And can it control the weather? Right?
Yeah.
Incoherent
talk about that.
scatter radar. So an ISR is basically, it's a type of scattering phenomenon physics where basically it's the most commonly used when referring to scattering of an electromagnetic wave, usually light or radio frequency. We're talking about RF radio frequency, by random fluctuations in gas of particles, most likely electrons. In this case, we're talking about the freaking ionosphere. So as a beam goes up, it gets incoherently scattered back, and then it's collected at digisonde locations, ionosondes. This is a way of diagnosing what the ionosphere currently looks like. So over here we can go to I'm gonna bring up my screen now, and I'm gonna, if I can get my mouse.
Yes, I'm not seeing the screen.
I haven't shared it yet. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're psychic, dude. Unless you're psychic.
Turn your harp off, Jeff.
Next rad.
Quit next red my damn share screen. All right, so this is a map. It's on Climate Viewer 3D, and it is called HAARP and Ionospheric Heaters Worldwide. There's a individual page for it, which would show you things like, the different EISCAT facilities and, I don't know, geophysical warfare, but, we won't get into all that. We'll just, get back out of full screen.
Okay, so the EISCAT itself looks like a big satellite dish, like we're all kind of used to seeing.
Yeah, so for all of these, people talk about things like HAARP. There are only 4 ionospheric heaters in the world. Oops, there's 3 because the one down in Puerto Rico, it just decided to get destroyed by a hurricane. So if I actually bring this up really big, we can see that previously the Arecibo was 6 antennas, about 600,000 watts with an effective radiated power of 200 million watts, megawatts. So why is it 600,000 watts here, but 200 million here? Effective radiated power is the amount of power that goes in times the decibel gain of the antenna, meaning the efficiency of it. That if it creates the effective radiated power. So the more efficient the antenna, the more power you're going to get out of it. Example, at the HAARP facility, 3.6 million watts goes in, but the effective radiated power is 5 billion watts. 5 gigawatts. For those who don't understand what a gigawatt is, think back to the Future when the doc was like 1.21 gigawatts. And he was talking about a lightning bolt hitting the clock tower to power the flux capacitor to send somebody back to the future. So this, the HAARP array has 180 cross dipole antennas. They're 72 feet tall. They operate on 2.8 to 10 megahertz, and they look like this. If you've never actually seen it before, you can actually click this button right here. It'll zoom you down to the ground, and you can see it for yourself. So this is the HAARP array with all of its antennas, and they are denoted by the shadows that you see on here. Each one of these little grids right here, this block, it has a controller trailer that has all the parts in it to run these antennas in this area. And as you can see, there's a bunch of trailers and Death Star Centrals over here. And that's where they do all the controlling of it. And they have other instruments like the MUIR. And they've got a whole optical array up here where they, shoot laser beams in the sky and see what they do and modify it and all that. Now, these are ionospheric heaters. Also, the Tromso array, which we're going to talk about in just a minute anyway. The other one you probably haven't heard about is the Sura array in Russia. Again, 144 cross dipole antennas, 750,000 watts with about 190 megawatt effective radiated power. See, that's at 83 dBW. That's the thing. And I mean, it's really silly looking. I mean, it's very old. It's the oldest of the bunch. It was around before any of the others were even invented. And again, you can just click this, zoom down, and see it for yourself. It's just a big square with a bunch of shadows. Not a whole lot you can make out from that. Maybe let's see if the other picture's any better. Nope, no better. I have different satellite views to try to see which one looks better. You never know. It's always hit or miss with these sorts of things. But anyway, so and they actually label it on Bing now. Thank your boy for that, because that wasn't there before. Anyway, so that's that. And let me get out of here. So the rest of these are incoherent scatter radars. These are all part of the EISCAT, aside from Millstone, which Millstone Hill is, it was actually on the other page. Pretty sure that's not it. But you can actually see Millstone Hill right here. The fact that it's in this picture but not in that picture is really silly. There it is right there. The MESA at Massachusetts. It's a really big. So these are the same thing as redneck television. You know, it's a satellite dish.
Okay, so what are they actually doing? They're just listening for things. What are they doing exactly?
Well, they're bouncing radio waves off of the ionosphere too. So this is like the EISCAT in Norway. We'll go back to that right now. Page up, and they're basically diagnosing what the current ionosphere looks like. So there's different versions of these. This is the AMISR. This is the PFISR. These are both very similar. They're called Advanced Modular Incoherent Scatter Radars. These are operated by the U.S. That's the Resolute Bay one. And then over here, now we go to EISCAT, which has, many of these really big radar dishes. And again, 3.5 million watts. 32 millimeter steerable parabolic dish. That's the one in Norway and Longyearbyen. Longyearbyen. I don't know. I'm Southern. I'm gonna butcher any of this stuff, so forgive me.
Yeah, I had fun with some of the Spanish stuff.
Oh God, man! Anytime you get into the Scandinavian, I'm just like, I don't even care. Don't even try. But this is a great shot of what Sura Russia's looks like. It's very similar to this, but this one is the Kharkiv in Ukraine. Isn't that the place everybody's currently fighting over? Very interesting.
Yep.
Russia wants its radars back, and that looks just like the Millstone Hill ISR. So, and there's another one very similar to the one up here in Longyearbyen. Can
I ask you something? Are these primarily for military use? Like, what is it that they're exactly looking for? And is it possible for corporations or whomever, NASA, whomever, to then just like hire them like a service? How does that work?
Well, they're very so if you compare them to like missile defense radars, there's not that much of a difference because like you're in Australia, correct?
Yes.
So down in Australia, you have what's called the Gendley Operational Radar Network. And they work like this. So this is their coverage range, and they're looking. These are missile defense radars. Period. So they generally bounce off the ionosphere and then come back. They have a return signal, and they look really funny. I mean, they just
sort of like a watchdog.
Yeah, they're like watchdogs. Now, what they don't tell you is that all of these things together work as missile defense systems, whether it's incoherent scatter radars, digisons, ionosons, all of them together form the space fence. So, they also have things like Doris. This is the Digison network, Doppler orbitography and radio positioning integrated by satellite, Doris. And then, there's all these different systems. These are ELF, VLF, which a lot of people really get confused because they, for some reason, think that this guy right here at Exmouth in Australia, they think this is a HAARP. Okay. This is not a HAARP. This is a direct VLF transmitter. Okay. The difference between this and ionospheric heaters are, this directly transmits very low frequency. You put the power in, you get the signal out, and it shows you right here. This is what the station looks like. There's towers, there's wires run between them, and this directly emits VLF signals. So this is for submarine, basically talking to submarines, talking to ships out to sea, things like that.
Okay.
So it doesn't actually do anything to the ionosphere at all, yet you'll see pictures of this all over everywhere on the internet saying that this is a weather control weapon that somehow is heating the ionosphere when it's not an ionospheric heater. I mean, there's all the things. I mean, I've heard it all, but these green ones, these are the Digison locations. So they're all over the world as well. They're doing the same thing that Jeff talks about all the time with radiosondes. Radiosondes measure the temperature, dew point depression, things like that. in the troposphere and into the lower portion of the stratosphere. Well, digisondes, ionosondes, they measure the total electron content, solar winds, things like that, at the height of the ionosphere. And EISCAT does the exact same thing. So when you're looking at these parabolic dishes, they are sending signals up to the top of the ionosphere to tell you what's going on in space and what it currently looks like, what the radio conditions are. Why? Well, it affects propagation of military radars. So, like when you've got these missile defense radars like Globus, X-band radars. X-band tends to just penetrate right through. It's a bad example. But anyway, all of these missile defense radars, all of these over-the-horizon radars, they operate on the ionosphere as a waveguide. So like OFF-B, over the horizon radar B, any of this stuff like up here at Clear Air Force. Oh, no picture. Just rude. So rude. Wow. But yeah, there's the BMUs and the paved paws. So they look like this. Wow. Yeah, these big guys, whenever they're bouncing their signals off of the ionosphere, you might want to know like what the ionosphere is currently doing, because it does all kinds of wackadoodle stuff. So they're constantly either modifying it or at least diagnosing it so they can modify it, or they're just like, hey, we looked up today and everything's going to work just fine, so no need to screw with it. So this is
okay,
all.
Can I just interrupt there?
Sure.
When you're saying modifying it, what do you mean by that?
So the ionospheric heater's job, like HAARP, is that it can directly modify portions of the ionosphere. That was the idea of an artificial ionospheric mirror, is that you could create a highly charged plasma in the sky that could effectively act as a artificial ionospheric mirror to reflect other radio waves off of. So if you have HAARP here and you've got the paved paws here and you've got a missile defense radar, then you could put an artificial ionospheric mirror somewhere up in the sky here and reflect the radar waves off of it to see further over the horizon. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep.
So that's one reason why they would want to modify the ionosphere. So specifically to TROMSO and the whole EISCAT thing. So EISCAT is the European Incoherent Scatter Radar Network, but they also operate the TROMSO ionospheric heater. Now, TROMSO, out of all the ionospheric heaters, is unique because it actually has 3 different arrays. So it's almost like 3 ionospheric heaters in one. And what I did was here, this is back when I was still on Google Earth, before they took Google Earth away from me. And I cut a picture out of a PDF that it was an instructional manual on the TROMSO array. And you can see that there are 3 separate, let me see if I can open this image in a new tab real quick. Yeah, and then we'll blow that up. So you can actually see the array 1, 5.5 to 8 megahertz, array 3, 5.5 to 5.8 megahertz, array 2, 3.85 to 5.65 megahertz. So each one, these two are very similar, but this one has a different, shorter,
range.
Yeah, it's like a narrower range. The VHF and UHF, which Jeff's going to probably talk about because he's got the numbers up there. Or I could bring them up real quick. They're actually right there beside it. And I don't know that I actually have them on here, but I did, and I don't know why they're not there today, because there's the actual Digisonde right there.
Yeah, right.
TROMSO's Digisonde, and it's one that stupid, but yeah, it just says EISCAT ELF VLF antenna. This is incorrectly. That's a ryometer. I don't know why they have it named that, but that's actually called a ryometer. And the Digisonde's connected to it. I want to say this is the VHF and this is the UHF antenna. So when you look at this, these are separate instruments. Bring that over here. So, whenever you're talking about the UHF versus the VHF versus the heating, that's because there's actually 3 separate instruments at the Tromso ionospheric heater. And, by looking at, go here, open a new tab. I have way too many tabs open at this point. Let's close all this down. I had some cool.
It's a disease, I can tell you. It's a disease. The tab disease.
It really is a disease. So this is their current power monitoring thing. And you can see UHF been off the charts all day long. It never even turned it off. Power coming down, spiking back up. This is their real-time monitor. And this is the heating status currently. And we could tell whether the heater itself is on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can check all that ourselves. This is what
so
what people need to learn.
You can literally just go to their website and check all this. I believe it's right here on this one. No, that's not it. Yeah, this is
really there's sort of no excuse for a lot of the information and the disinformation, let's say. I hate even using that word now, but
you can go check yourself. I mean, then you can verify by a third party, because if you don't trust them by putting out their own stuff, all of this stuff you will literally be able to get on ham radio or web SDR and look it up your darn self. If you're convinced that they're just lying to you, but you can come right here. This is where I, saw all this stuff, operational links on the side, and you can come down here. This literally says temperature at heating, all that stuff. They got the Dinosigns right there. Current heating status. That's where I went to this.
Okay.
So, I mean, all this stuff is right there. The power monitor, the real-time power monitor, not the one, the text links and all of that. Latest VHF local. And then shows you their charts. This is dated November 8th. So I guess that's the latest that they have. But you can check all this stuff almost in real time.
What was the website there? Sorry. What was the website there, Jim?
That's eiscat.uit.no.
All right. We'll put that in the show notes as well.
Hey, Jim?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to go back to like the 27th, 28th, maybe a few days before, look at some of that, the charts that?
I'd have to pull up the email real quick. Hold on.
No, right there. You have the history right there on the right. Go down to the power monitor right there.
Oh yeah, it's
previous plots,
previous logs,
or log files, one of the two. I forget which one.
Yeah, so it's previous plots.
The 29th was the worst. Start clicking back from the 29th, like a week before, to see if it was on the heater.
Yeah, I just did that.
We went around about the 15th, 16th of October.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a tiny little bit of heater.
I think it was the 16th or 17th that it actually was on. That's the last time.
Of the 10th, yep.
17th?
17th.
There it is. And you can see there's another graph. It might have been the log charts, Jim, that actually breaks down minute by minute. It was the other thing, log files maybe, or previous plots, one of the two. Yeah, go to the 16th or 17th.
You're not fooling me this time, buddy. 1017. Yeah, but I mean, you're looking at the raw data here, which is the chat. The log text file. I'm sending all this to you too, Stella.
Okay, thank you.
Stella. Well, over here on the text log, you have a difference from the text log to what the visualized text log output is during that same given time, because this is showing 1410. So
1014. They do it
backwards because everything's backwards. And Norway.
But it's the right way around.
Look here, freedom can't be measured in kilometers. But yeah, that's different. So, what did we break it? Did we break it? I think we broke it.
You're going to get a knock at the door any minute.
No, I've been good. I have not done anything wrong, Your Honor. I did nothing.
So,
That's
any idea why they would have it on for a short period of time at that particular date?
When I was talking to Chris Fallon from the HAARP facility, he's the previous director of the HAARP facility. What he said was that they would have to warm it up every so often. And I was going to show you an example of this. So, like, if you actually go to this one, this is just a map of the HAARP facility itself, not like a map of all of them. And what you can see over here is these are the diesel generators that power the thing.
Wow.
And I learned this firsthand from Chris Fallon that because of the film and the book, Angels Don't Play This Harp, and HAARP, Holes in Heaven, they actually named these Angels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Wow.
What an honor.
Because there were so many conspiracy theories about the HAARP facility, and they were getting death threats and all that sort of stuff. So to make light of it, they say Angels don't play this HAARP. Well, in fact, these angels do, because these diesel engines have been named Angels 1 through 6. Yeah, so I mean, you can see right here like information on this, but that's how they generate the 3.6 million watts worth of radar or radio power. And this is the HAARP research facility where they actually have like a heads up display of everything going on, cameras of the field, cameras, with digital readouts. Like on that screen right there is something very similar to what we're looking at on here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, that's just right there in the, I used to joke and call this Death Star 1. Like this is the operating center for Death Star 1, and they can, really get in there and look at everything. But this is the control center for HAARP.
Can I interject something here?
Oof, I broke it.
The reason this is important is we're thinking that if they can add heat to a ridge of high pressure, you can strengthen it. If you could strengthen it, you can deflect a low to go farther around it, or dissipate a low pressure center in the front. So
that's this the theory.
This low that we're seeing here, that when you get to the weather part here, it starts up in Greenland and it moves over towards the UK, Ireland, and then it drops down into Spain. It's like, did they affect it by using that ionospheric heater to strengthen the ridge to make that low cut off and drop down? That's the whole reason for checking this.
Yep, and it's a fair question, really.
And my conclusion when I looked at all those charts, that was the 16th that it was on for 8 minutes. That's 13 days before. You've had 20 troughs going through in that time period since.
So
okay, good point.
Yeah, to oversimplify it, it wasn't on. to anybody who's like going, was HAARP on? No, HAARP was not on. HAARP wasn't on. Tromso, the ionospheric heater over here, was not. I have way too much crap on the screen. Let me get rid of all these. So let's just simplify again.
And Jim, where do you check to see that HAARP is on?
Very similarly, like what I usually do is I go to like WebSDR. So like there's several different. I mean, I have one in my hut. I have this is called my heads up display. So I have like Diagnostic Sweetheart. Let's just click that and see what we got. If the Ionospheric plots 7 day. Okay, here it is. collaborative oblique Ionospheric magnetometer, which is not on. Oh, it is on now. Look at them. They've updated. I'll be damned. Here, I'll throw that in the chat for you, both of you guys. That's the HAARP Diagnostic Suite. See how much nicer their page is? They have a seismic station there. High speed, the cameras, you can actually see directly over the induction magnetometer. Ooh, is that back on for real? Let's effing go.
What is it?
The Fluxgate magnetometer.
Oh, that's what they use in Back to the Future?
Yeah, that's where the whole term comes from. Let's see what they got. Oh my God, we're back in business, baby. It's been a while since I've seen this little jewel. So yeah, they actually have the real-time monitoring suite back up on there. That's pretty freaking awesome.
Can you go back to October 15th to the 25th?
Can I? Yes. Here, let me go back to this real quick.
So this is going to tell you if HAARP Gakona was on?
Yeah. Let's see, VLF receiver, riometer, the magnetometer, which should go off through the charts. Time scale, let's see how far this goes back. This goes back to, this is all just today.
I just saw something saying archive data, I thought, when you scrolled down.
Yeah, this has 7-day history. Yeah.
Archive, there it is. Right down. There you go.
Here we go. That's what we want.
Yeah. Okay. How do we
want
2018? I mean, what in the heck just happened there? It doesn't have any data for 2019.
Oh, what? How come?
I guess when they say archive, they mean going way back.
Right. So we need to find 2019 onwards up to last week.
Very annoying.
Must be there somewhere.
So the odds of Gakona transmitting directly upward over Alaska to affect a low south of Greenland is,
I mean, it's kind of a moot point.
Ridiculous.
It's a moot point because when you're talking about the HAARP facility itself, and I'm pretty sure it's still on here. Let me go up here. You have this thing called the HAARP VLF buoy. This is the conjugate point for the HAARP facility. So the magnetic field line that it's traveling on goes from here to here. And that's because the one hop experiment follows the Van Allen belt down the magnetic. That's why they have these lines up here on the patch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it would be picked up by this buoy floating off the coast of New Zealand, right off the coast of Antarctica. That's where HAARP's signal transfers to directly to.
Okay.
It's not even close.
It's like a big circuit, right, Jim?
Yeah, because it's following the Van Allen belt. So, out into space and then coming back down, pretty much the same longitude right there. So, they're effectively the same distance from the pole. You see that?
Yep. Is there another one on the other side of the globe? Sorry to the flat earthers, by the way. Just
no. Well, I mean, I'm very accommodating to the flat earthers because they shouldn't be ridiculed for being curious. So, if you're into that sort of thing, hey, we can make that flat.
Nice. Thank you.
I'm very accommodating.
We're all in this together.
Yeah. It makes the triangle really weird shape, but don't even think about that. The world could be flat. We could all be wrong. But at the end of the day, these are called the different shells that they transmit into. You know what? I could do this real quick. Let me go to my YouTube.
So is it why is it using the Van Allen belt? Is that because it assists the signal or because the signal makes it in spite of it or what?
Because that's just where, because it's going to, Because of electron harmonics, the way it actually attaches itself to the magnetic field lines, the shear Alvin waves, the different Whistler waves that they're transmitting, they actually just go to my channel. I swear, make everything hard. Where's my own YouTube channel? So I did a video on this.
You want me to give you a link?
You want me to give you a link? She says. This better be here. Okay. So how HAARP really works. My most popular video ever before I was actually censored, before they shadow banned the crap out of me, I had 173,000 views on a single video. And that's because nobody understood exactly how this damn thing worked. And I wanted to, really break it down for people. So this is the high pass facility. So I do a little bit of, like, what are these things and where are they? That's where these pictures all came from. And then I just made them into a map too, just to, bring it home. But if you go down to this part right here, so these are what the Van Allen belts look like. And if you're talking about the shells, the closer you get to the poles, the farther out the shell that they're going to follow goes. Okay. So even, Tromso's right here in this shell, and I do believe I have a picture of their right here is like where they actually show the power of each. So up here at the top, this is HAARP dBW versus frequency. So the higher the frequency, the more effective radiated power they actually get out of it. So closer to 10 megahertz, more power you get. Right here is the Tromso arrays, as you can see, are these two lines. Sura, Russia is right down here. High Pass was the predecessor to HAARP up in Gakona. And this picture on the other side tells what I'm talking about here. And you can see that these are the electron shells that they actually fire into. So the EISCAT 5.8, which is right here, if you follow that joker around, you can see that its signal, when it gets over Spain, is way the hell up out in space.
Interesting.
That's kind of the point of all this. So it's way the hell out in space before it, and that's why, like, Arecibo being closer to the equator, it's a shorter hop, as you can see. So it's just like the layers of an onion. The closer you get to the poles, the further out the travel is, the more radiation can actually be scraped from those Van Allen belts and dumped onto the other pole. That is the way you create artificial aurora. None of this has anything to do with being able to create ground level weather. And this isn't popular. It's never made me, famous or rich or anything like that, pointing out the science of all of this. But when we're talking about the ionosphere, heating the D and E regions of the ionosphere, we're talking about upwards of 70 kilometers in the sky. Meanwhile, troposphere hanging out way down here. Stratosphere up here, and this is the ozone layer into the mesosphere, ionosphere. That's why they're called ionospheric heaters, because they're dumping electrons at this level, up near the auroral electrojet, which is where the auroral ovation zone is. That is why Tromso is right here and HAARP is right here. It's directly under the auroral electrojet. But what they learned was they didn't need to heat the electrojet to be able to create ELF and VLF. This was called polar electrojet heating. They came up with a new version of it called ICD, which is ionospheric current drive. And it says right here, does not require electrojet, can be implemented anywhere, anytime, which basically is the reason why the military sold HAARP to the University of Alaska, because they didn't need it to be stuck in freaking Alaska anymore for them to be able to create ELF waves.
Yeah.
So instead of creating heating at the D or E region, which is around 70 to about 150 kilometers, which is what they were doing with this polar electrojet heating, now they're actually heating all the way up in the F region at 300 kilometers. This creates MS waves, or magnetosonic waves. Just to back up, that was shown earlier in this picture. Compressive magnetohydrodynamic waves, or magnetosonic waves. These are standing oscillations of the geomagnetic field lines, which behave as strings with the ends fixed in the ionosphere. That's where the whole term "angels don't play this" HAARP, plucking the harp strings, making them oscillate, vibrate. Get it?
Yep, got it.
So
Okay, so why are they doing that? Is it just purely experimental, or is there other reasons?
because instead of spending a whole lot of money to here, let me zoom that down just a hair. You can see here, like, this is injective waves. This is injected shear Alvin waves going over here to where I showed you conjugate point, that buoy over in, off the
Yes.
coast. And then it actually, some of it gets dumped out into the lower troposphere. Okay. And then gets trapped there. But then you see here, reflected waves, amplified or triggered waves. Energetic electrons, they come back home. The reflected waves come all the way back to where they started from. That's called a hop. That's why that buoy is called the one hop experiment, because one hop is down to here, two hops is when it comes all the way back.
Okay.
So this right here is about radiation belt remediation. About if we were to get hit with a Carrington event, could they very quickly suck energy out of the ionosphere and dump it on the poles to save us all from electromagnetic pulse doom?
Really? That's what they think? Is that what's what that's all about? Or
I mean, it's one of the things they said it was about. Now, whether you believe that's actually what it is or not is totally up to you. But you can go to space weather modification fact on here, and you can see, why heat the ionosphere. Well, they said use the tether panel recommendations. Use HAARP facility in Alaska as a wind tunnel to determine feasibility and engineering specifications of a mitigation system for, and this was at satellite threat due to high altitude nuclear detonations by Dennis Papadopoulos, University of Maryland. Now, the reason why that name is important is because who's the guy writing these papers? It's Dennis Papadopoulos at the University of Maryland, talking about all this. And he talks about
Dennis.
I mean, look, it's right there in the top. Papadopoulos, that's all. University of Maryland logo in the corner, and he's the one who wrote them. So all of this, it's not a coincidence. This is actually Demeter satellite readings, and it actually shows where the Demeter satellite flew over and what the readings were for 0.1 hertz magnetosonic. 2.5 hertz shear Alvin waves, and it's like off the chart on the Demeter satellite on there. So they were able to create very extremely low frequency. The reason why this is important, sorry flatties, we're going back to globe style. The reason why this is important is because instead of creating all of this, which are all these VLF transmitters, like currently the state of the art is up here in Cutler, Maine, which is right here. Let me go down here. It takes all of this at Cutler, Maine, with these huge tall antennas, and putting, 1.8 million watts into it, and all of these different towers. So this is 2 Harold Holts, in case you didn't notice. It's the exact same design with that Star of David.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact same design, except there's 2 of them. There's one up here, and there's one below.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Cutler Naval Radio Station. So in order to talk to submarines underground, either you can build a huge ass antenna array like this and pump a whole lot of power into it, or they're trying to come up with new ways to do it, like we were showing here, where they could effectively, create these all, anywhere in the world at any time, which led to, I'm almost tempted to try out my little soundboard thing real quick and play this.
Well, I'm sure the whales would probably be happier about that, perhaps, if they can sort of aim it more accurately, and perhaps, I mean, I'm only thinking about the VLFs specifically on a little, extrusion piece of land like that. It must be
Things like
create
this.
havoc in the water.
Can you hear
the
this?
ocean. Where we can, yep. Oh yes, this sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
That had a name.
So the speculation is that these sounds are echoes of those ultra low frequency, extremely low frequency sounds that are being heard all over the world. They call them sky trumpets, rumbling noises that have no explanation whatsoever. They're pretty creepy.
Phew.
I mean,
It's a bit high frequency though, isn't it? That's a bit.
They
sounds a little
vary.
bit high for me. Yeah, right. It's very biblical. The trumpets shall sound.
But nobody's been able to come up with an explanation for these otherwise.
No.
But that's about the gist of it. So at the end of the day, there are many different things you can do with, an ionospheric heater, but nowhere has anybody been able to show a link between when any of these high frequency, heating facilities are on, and weather. And even with the new EISCAT 3D, which they just added, they just built this sucker, so it's not even showing up yet. I don't believe it's on here either.
I'm going to guess that there's probably a bunch of enthusiasts out there that, like, maybe ham radio guys or whatever, that are probably monitoring this just for hobby. They probably got their eyes on all the.
Yeah, I got a friend up in Maine. His name is Radical Ralph Rousseau, and he's a ham radio operator who tells me, "Hey, HAARP's on. Tune in right now on this thing." So you can check web SDR, and I have a bunch of different like different ones for this, which is what I used to use all the time. But you can go to web SDR. The ARRL, Amateur Radio, National Association of Amateur Radio. They have like all the different web SDR links, so you can actually download the app directly for it.
And I'd just like to send a shout out to all the amateur radio and ham radio operators out there. I think you're gems.
Yeah, we love you guys for sure. You just like, so these are all the different web SDRs that are available. So this one happens to be right near Gakona, and there's a bunch near the Tromso array. So you can just click on that, click on this, just ignore that, and see if the Kiwi SDR comes up. And then bam, now we're actually, I don't want it. And you can actually hear it. And you can tune into the frequency. So we're talking about 2.8 to 10 megahertz. You can actually tune in using this right here to the actual frequency. You can see the waterfall. And there's a learning curve with all this. Is that like blowing your ears out right now?
I don't hear it.
It sounds like this.
Oh, now we can.
Yeah.
So if you come out here, you're not going to hear a lot. Okay.
Yeah, right.
You actually peek in on different sounds, and
that's what the guys on the Navy ships look like when they're towing that. They call it a towed array. It's a passive tail that they spool out behind the ship, And those guys are looking at stuff like that, and they can tell where ships are turning and where subs are turning, and they triangulate and do all kinds of cool stuff to tell, that's a Russian Krivak or whatever.
Yeah, and they've actually got titles for most of the stuff up here at the top, so you can actually zoom in and see the wideband on it. Like, so, you know, with WebSDR, you can actually go up here and hit like this and go to the different ones that are already predetermined. God, that sounds like a freaking scary movie.
Sharp.
Yeah, so the point is, like, let me get off this before my mind's about to explode. The point is that I used to use, you know, like I had all of the different ionospheric heaters. Like, I had a bookmark for every single one of them. And I would just find one that was close nearby, using things like Kiwi SDR. And you can tell, because guess what? It is radio frequency, and people have antennas, and they can, you know, basically, you know, that you can listen in. That's just the whole point of all this.
Yeah, there's no way that they could sort of pull it off completely.
They can't hide.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way. They can't hide it. You can't hide a radio transmission that anybody in the world can hear.
Yeah, and even if they can't, even if we don't know what it is, we could probably know what it isn't by looking at all these different things.
Yeah, I mean, because they'll, you know, most of those transmissions, as you can see, they were already labeled at the top. So people know what the transmitter is, where that's coming from. Some people have already geolocated. They're like, we know this is a, you know, this is a standard military radio frequency. So the web SDR guys are just extensions of, you know, the ham radio guys. They're setting up antennas in their backyard. SDR is software defined radio. So they're basically just setting up a listening device that you can then transmit to the internet. That's where the web part comes in. So web software defined radio. So there are multiple ways to tell if an ionospheric heater's on. And, you know, I've been looking at them for over 15 years, and I've never seen a chance. I know Jeff is like wanting to jump at this. Right? One time I saw something odd one time. Other than that, I've never seen anything. So I guess now I got to let the cat out of the bag, because I told Jeff, and there was one time that HAARP was on, and I was looking at the satellite imagery that was coming in, and it was a single stationary image, so I can't really say a whole lot about it, other than that, because it was the Terra Modus, and you don't know. I mean, you just really never know with this sort of thing. So I'm looking at up here in Alaska. Here, I'll reshare screen real quick. Present, share screen. This one, Shibuya. So I'm up here and I'm looking at Alaska, and let me turn the satellite thing off. Go back here to sensors, and I'll just bring up HAARP by itself. Boom. And so now I'm looking at the HAARP facility, and I'm looking for, oh, isn't that weird? I can see the ground there, but not anywhere else. HAARP must be on, cooking the clouds right now. Caught it on camera. No, so you can actually go to this, and you can you can put in the date, and I mean, it'd be a freaking miracle if I actually hit this. Just let's go to my birthday on November of 2017. And what I saw was something like, you know, all the clouds are coming in, but then as they got to the HAARP array, you would see, oh, look, there's those rib bones, Jeff. It's got to be HAARP, right? Ooh. What I saw was basically a big square cut off. Just clear as day, a huge horizontal line where the clouds ended.
Like a big hole in the cloud?
Yeah, and I mean, considering I literally have every single day here, and I could just go back and bring them up until I finally find it, you know, look at all of those HAARP. Wow. Aren't you just blown away, Jeff? I mean,
Yeah.
you've totally been destroyed by everybody on the internet simultaneously. These are HAARP waves. They're everywhere, and they are literally around HAARP. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Jeff. Why are you lying to
Wow.
everybody?
Wow.
So
That's sarcasm, folks, just so that there's no
those who don't
quick
get it,
video shorts taken there.
there's a lot of mountains up here, and this is
Yes, it's the
a lot.
terrain.
This is a large air mass that typically moves in from up here and then goes back down here. So yes, and you can see it very clearly right here. This is the air moving into Alaska over the Aleutians, then hitting mountains and causing a whole bunch of lee waves. So as Jeff would say, if you don't understand the atmosphere, you're probably going to get lost here. So you might want to look a little deeper. But the sky is a river, and rivers leave ripples, and it's really that simple.
Very well said.
Thank you. I'm trying to be half a meteorologist.
Hey, Jim.
Yes, sir.
To tie this a little bit, I want to just talk about how people think that you could steer those waves to land somewhere, to do something somewhere, right? Like to affect that ridge 2,000 miles away. So can you go to that? I know you had it on your site somewhere, that anomalous propagation, where it shows trapping layers and subrefractive and normal ranges in the lower atmosphere, lower troposphere. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anomalous propagation.
Yeah. Hold on.
You know your map. You have a map of your website in your head. Like,
I mean, this is actually on my old blog. So, I wrote this on my old blog back before anybody knew that I was Jim Lee. I was Resonated and a member of Anonymous, and that was my logo. But I went back since and put with Jim Lee on there. So it was just the Resonation. Before anybody knew I was Jim Lee. It was the radiation database on resonated.com, which doesn't even exist anymore. Better be careful because I might end up pulling up some Japanese porn or something like that. But yeah, I sold those off, and resonated.net actually was this blog. But if you scroll down a long way and you go past all the next rad stuff, and then we get into things like, how do the beams actually form, the near field and the far field, the cone that the beam actually extends, what it's shaped like, the different scan modes. This is clear air mode, this is precipitation mode, and then most people don't understand what level 2 and level 3 data is. So like most people are just looking at level 2 data. These are, the radar gets a signal back and then a computer turns it into CGI. And that's what they see when they're calling these next rad anomalies, the laser beams and everything they're seeing. That's through the radar data acquisition and the radar data product generator, which generates also level 3 data, which none of you fools on the internet who are making these videos claiming that NextRad steering the weather has ever looked at NextRad level 3 data. I'll bet my left testicle on that. And I only do that in special circumstances.
Special occasions.
But, yeah, and that's why I still have that left testicle.
Take your word for that.
But yeah, this is super refraction and different atmospheric ducting dependent on conditions.
So this is the over the horizon stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, the radar horizon should be here, but in certain atmospheric conditions, it can be extended, it can be reduced. An example is like at night, like here's an inversion layer, and you see how some of the signals actually refracted up, and some of it's actually bouncing off of that inversion.
Can you give us a really quick rundown of what an inversion layer is and why it would happen? 20 words or less.
It's due to a change in pressure and temperature, right, Jeff?
It's due to descending air. Like over the west coast of the United States, you have a high pressure, semi-permanent ridge of high pressure, and that descending air causes warming, and it shows up as warming air in that lower 2,000 or 3,000 feet. and the EMF waves of all types, they get bent by that.
Yep.
They bend away from the warm back down towards the cold, where the cold ocean water is on the west coast of continents. So they like to be in the slower moving situation. They go bend away from the inversion, reflect off of the surface, and they'll go out and see a ship 2 or 3 times the distance away because of that inversion.
So these sort of things can be affected by the weather. Sorry, I just wanted to clear up whether that was like ions or weather. So that's weather.
This is the weather affecting the radar, not the radar affecting the weather. The radar is not changing the weather. The weather's changing the radar. Isn't that ironic?
That's right. Yeah, and that's why they have a bit of a problem with some of these theories where they're going to be, shooting lasers or whatever. It's like, it's not that simple, is it? Because this kind of thing comes into the equation. So
right, because so they don't really want to understand, all of the details that go into this, and the blind spots of this, how it's reflected, what atmospheric ducting actually is. Radar blooms, all the different things that occur to, like this is literally the Chesapeake Bay Bridge tunnel showing up as rain. It is not rain. It's a freaking tunnel.
Wow.
But for some reason it's showing up on there. Don't believe me? Here's a different view from a different, this is in precipitation mode, and that is a tunnel showing up on radar. This is the radar bloom that everybody sees every night. It happens at night, only at night. But people don't want to understand how that's caused or any of that. They want to make very hyperbolic videos. These are sun echoes, where all of these are making laser beams to control the weather because they're actually looking at the sun going down. Whenever I look at the radar, they're like, it's a pencil beam, man. It's that's what it is.
Very tiny.
Even I was thinking about it at the time, and I was grasping at straws. I wanted to find any reason to believe. And this was my last ditch effort going, all right, now look, I've looked into everything. This is a sunburst, and I just kept going. I dug and I dug and I dug, and eventually I just landed on, you know what? I got played. I got played by Dutch Sense and HAARP Weather War 101 because I saw some freaky colors on a freaking NEXRAD Doppler radar, and then I realized, like, really looking at, and this is a famous Dutch Sense HAARP square. I mean, you can't make that stuff up right there. I mean, what about the squares? What are that? Are they scalar squares? Because I mean, at the end of the day, people back then,
whatever that is, scalar square.
I mean, I was looking at them like they're called column waves, and that's what it is. It's a column wave, which is doing a repulsive effect. I'm like, I don't know, if you want to play detective, go figure it out. Like, here's all the information above. Go and be fruitful. I mean, at the end of the day, I had nothing else to go on. I'm like, all right, well, that's all I got for you today. And thank you for visiting the radiation database, which was the original Climate Viewer 3D.
Go forth and datify.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. So, like, the only way to put it is this. I can call you a retard because I used to be a retard too. Okay. I mean, I was a retard. I believe that the NEXRADs were controlling the weather and, got my face put in several times by trolls. And then I'm like, maybe I should actually listen and see what I can figure out. Maybe I don't have it all figured out. And then I really started to look. Like, I was deep into like looking at the NEXRAD level 3 data and comparing it versus, satellite views. And I'm like, visually, nothing happened to that cloud. NEXRAD level 3 data, looking at wind vortices and, everything above baseline reflectivity. Nothing actually changed in that weather. Yeah, there's that big, line coming out of it, but it didn't change the wind. It didn't change the clouds. It didn't change the rain. All that just floated on by. like nothing ever happened. So where's the correlation? I'm not seeing a correlation. And but honestly, it took me finally going, maybe I'm wrong, for me to even look to see if I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that most people never really hit that point. It's more like, you know how you watch a television show and you're just into it because it's funny, or it's I'm gonna use comedy as a joke, as the example. So like you're into the show because it's funny, and that's it. You watch the show, you're done, you don't think about it again. Other people are like, do you know the actor in that? And this person actually, they had these 15 roles before that, and the producer is this, and the cameraman is that, and that person worked on these other films. I'm that nerd now when it comes to radars, okay? Like, I don't just watch the show anymore. Like, I literally have gone and I've talked to people. I've literally called individual NextRad stations and talked to their operators while I saw something funky going on. They actually have data logs very similar to what we have with Tromso. So there was a hurricane coming through, and I see it's in clear air mode, then it goes to precipitation mode, and then it goes to unknown mode. And I'm like, how can it have an unknown mode? This is not a thing. And of course, I can get the phone number for this actual place and call the person and go, what the hell is that? And he's like, the thing is literally like down right now. We don't have power right now. That's why it says unknown mode. We don't have power right now. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Unpowered mode.
So there's a lot of different things that most people would never even consider. At the end of the day, like no amount of evidence can ever convince an idiot. And then rule number 13 of the internet: all your carefully laid arguments can be easily ignored. So I do see a value in what you guys are doing, because at the end of the day, when people finally come to that moment where they become curious enough to validate their deeply held beliefs or invalidate them, at least you guys are providing a service where somebody can come and see, you know what? I'm not a meteorologist. I've been doing this 20 years. I don't understand half the words coming out of Jeff's mouth. And I think Jeff would probably agree that when I talk about HAARP, he doesn't understand half the things coming out of my mouth. So we can't be all things all at once. We do need to have someone we can trust, someone who has a deeper understanding of these things, who can look at it and go, no, there's no reason to be panicked about this one. Or, hey, there's some shenanigans going on, and somebody should be actually doing something about this, because clearly there were shenanigans. So we need a captain of shenanigans to like make the calls on the field.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, though, when you said people have to come to that point themselves. It's almost like a religion, discovering spirituality or something similar. It's just, you can't make somebody believe something. They've got to come to that themselves. You can't make someone give up smoking. They've got to come to that themselves, So all we can do is sort of provide we know it's a bit droll. Most people don't watch past maybe 18 minutes or less. But it's in the filing cabinet. It's there.
Hey,
we've made a record of the event.
You're doing better than me. I mean, like I get maybe
8.
maybe 10 minutes of an hour-long video, and then only 25% of the viewers are watching because they're like, you know what? I'm going back to watching TikTok videos.
Yeah, it's so boring.
But honestly, Stella, like if you took this same, long form still lives heart very strongly. I almost made a pervert reference. It's going hard in the podcast world. So because people can continue to do their daily work or drive a truck or, mow the grass and not stare at a screen, and they can turn their screen off so they don't kill their battery, podcasts are still alive and kicking in the long format, and people will listen all the way through. So I'm going to be doing that in the very near future, taking my long videos that I make where I run on ad nauseum about all the minutia and figuring out how to, just like we were talking about restream before the broadcast here, do the same thing where I put it out on this, with an app that puts it on iTunes and Spotify and all the places, because you can do that.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, a lot of your shows and a lot of our shows could still be just listened to. I mean, they can be watched, obviously, that's better, but they can even still be listened to, because it's like you can hear what's sort of going on, there's the commentary as you go. And I mean, later on, you can go and check it up if you want to. So they're still listenable, in my opinion.
And I mean,
I listen to your shows while I mow.
I appreciate that. Most people say, I can't listen to you unless I put it on 2X. And I'm like, I couldn't listen to me unless I put it on 2X. Like, I don't have that much time. So, everybody, does it their own way. And the bottom line is, like, there will always be, I mean, we're not Joe Rogan. We don't have, like, the fancy setup with, being able, you're not flying Jeff out to your house every weekend to do these videos. We can't all be that. So that's different. There's going to be the higher end production. There's going to be the lower end production. But at the end of the day, the data is equal no matter what the production level, if it's true. So as long as what you're saying is true and people can hear you being authentic and genuine, and then they can verify what you're saying, then it doesn't matter, how much money you put into the production of it. There's a guy I watch, Theoria Apophasis, and his name's Ken, and dude literally just sits down at his desk and he goes and waxes.
Oh, I like that guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, Ken he's a trip, and he says so many words. I have no idea what the hell he's saying, and I have to go like pause and then go Google the word. What does that mean? Ask Grok and the AI. What does he mean by this? Go back to listen to the video. But hey, it's great, because it's mind candy.
Yeah, it goes in, and even if you don't understand it at the time, it's still in there, and then it'll be relevant at some other point, perhaps. Make something else make sense.
Yeah.
So
eventually,
it's a matter of being curious, really. I mean, I'm not that smart. I'm just really curious. So eventually stuff sticks if I look at it enough. So I just encourage other people to also be curious.
I think I'm really smart. And then I go and I talk to my wife about things, and I'm like, damn, maybe I'm not smart.
Yeah, well, women.
He keeps me grounded.
Just doing my nails at the moment. How are you going there, Jeff? Oh, not that good, I guess.
Jeff has just passed away from a dog attack.
Okay, I think he's doing something with his chooks. I might have to edit that bit out. But oh yeah, well, I mean, there's just so much information to take in too, isn't there? I mean, the average Joe's, who's really that interested, or who's got the time to sit down and do it? I mean, there's people like us who we do it because we're interested, and some of us have more time than others. But your general sort of everyday person is taking, little dude to soccer and the other chick to ballet and what have you, and they've got to try to cook dinner in the middle somewhere. So I hope that we're filling a void here with, well, particularly you, Jim, because, I mean, why wouldn't you trust Jim Lee? He's straight up.
Do not trust me. Do not trust a word I said. Go and verify everything yourself, because I could be wrong. And, if we all agreed, then we could all be wrong. So that's also a problem. So never get into like this, cognitive, confirmation bias where you're, only listening to people you agree with, because guess what? You could all be wrong. I'd rather somebody come to me and say, Jim, I think you're wrong, and here's why. And be honest with me and send me the information. And guess what? I'm more inclined to actually listen to somebody who says, you know what? I think you're wrong, and here's why. Then, hey, I agree. I think you're amazing, and everything you do is perfect. And by the way, check out this video. I'm probably not going to watch it. I'm just being
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the time, to
Sure.
hear what other people say about these things. It's such a tough world out there. I mean, there's only so
A lot of
many hours in
information.
a day, and everybody wants your attention.
Can I ask you about something else which I've been meaning to ask for ages? Now that I've got you here, I want to talk about, we touched on it during the show, the artificial auroras. Now, these auroras that we've been seeing the last couple of years, particularly, which have been very unusual because they've been visible in areas that you don't normally get to see the aurora, much further
Mhm.
south in the northern hemisphere, much further north in the southern. Do you think that that has anything to do with technology that's going on, or is it? Do you think it's purely the magnetic things that are happening from the sun flares, etc.? Or I might have screwed that up completely, but you know what I'm saying?
You said it perfectly.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I so creating artificial air glow or artificial aurora, you know, like earlier I would have told you, yeah, man, totally. They do that. But then actually looking at literal video directly from the HAARP facility, it's not as impressive as you think. It's
Okay.
actually it's pretty unimpressive actually. They can barely make the air glow. If you want to see the air glow, then like what would like the coolest light show you're going to get out of any kind of space weather modification is like with the sounding rockets.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen this one.
Let me just add you there. The Azure project. Oh yes, I was reading about this.
So these are what sounding rockets look like.
Oh, funky.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do a whole playthrough of it right here. This is at 5 times speed.
Oh wow. Okay, you can imagine why people would be freaked out if they saw that. Yeah.
So that's the
Very
barium.
okay.
That's cesium, trimethyl aluminum. Barium, that's strontium.
All right. Okay. Because from what I was reading with the ionosphere, with the the aurora, is it true that the red is sort of a nitrogen base and the oxygen is a green color?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So whenever I'll just refresh this.
So why
Uh,
would you get more nitrogen colored auroras sometimes? Why would that be?
I'm
Why would
not
the
sure.
change? Okay.
But this is what it looks like over time. So after that same video you
Wow.
watched, this is a photo that was taken by somebody who was in the general area that the video was taken. So I made it as the preview. But what you can see is that it actually shows the trimethyl aluminum in the upper atmospheric winds. They're basically tracers for the winds in the sky. Whereas at the very top, you're closer to the ionosphere where there's almost no wind at all. The
Yeah.
big purple area of the barium glow. And then as it comes down, you can start to see where there's the turbulence and the wind, where the
Hmm.
trimethyl aluminum trails are. So that's a really cool little, graphic of it. I do have an actual photo of an air glow thing um, from the ionospheric heater, up at HAARP, and I would have to
Hmm.
dig through my articles to find it real quick. Um, and I don't remember which one it was on, to be quite honest with you. I could peek real quick and see if I could find it. But no, I don't believe that they're strong enough. I found it on the very
They
first try.
can't manipulate the auroral electrojet. Write
No,
that down.
not and do this. So this is what it actually
Okay.
looks like.
Okay. Oh, right. So it's okay.
So this is air glow at directly above the heater. Okay, observation, geometry, and image data of two low light imaging systems capturing a 557 nanometer emission from a bullseye shaped artificial ionospheric plasma over the HAARP facility. So that's the actual photo of it.
Okay.
And you can see that this is, if you were looking straight up from the HAARP facility, that's what it would look like. And these are oblique views off angle from the observer. That's what it looks like. But if you were directly, standing in the center of the HAARP transmitters, which is probably not good for your health,
Yeah.
that's what it would look like. So this is
Like a
the air.
bullseye.
Yeah, this is the air glow created by, and of course, air glow and artificial aurora are two different things. But if even if you come up here to why heat it, you can see, where is it at? This is the air glow part right here, and
Give me this link too, please.
this is just weather modification history.space.
Yeah, I know, but it's got a lot of good, really, really good links in it there. I'm sure people will have fun playing in that. I know I will.
I thought I had one. Yeah, radiation belt remediation right here. Control of energetic proton flux in the inner radiation belt by artificial means. Oh, who's that? Another dude named Papadopoulos.
There's Papadopoulos popping up again.
It's the whole Papadopoulos family. But this paper discusses the basic physics of the interaction of high energy protons with low frequency shear Alvin waves, SAW, under conditions prevailing in the radiation belt. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's, that's what the whole, being able to push radiation out of the ionosphere very quickly. Boring paper, not very many colorful pictures for you to look at.
Data porn.
Yeah, it's data porn. Good description. I like that. It's perfect. I love it. Destroying the Van Allen belts. Like, we don't need them. Can we get rid of them? Electric light orchestrated.
Yeah, then we might be able to go to the moon.
I love the title of that. Hacking the Van Allen belts. Could we save satellites and astronauts by wiping out the Van Allen belts? It was an actual article in IEEE Spectrum.
Okay.
This is from
20 satellites and astronauts. Did we lose an astronaut to the Van Allen belt at some point?
Apparently, I don't know, maybe. But yeah, like I couldn't even believe this when I first read it, because I was just so taken aback by what some of these people said. Like this Bortnick fool, he's like, it's really mind-boggling to think that human control over such huge volumes of space, or on Earth, we control the nature all the time, like building dams, but the prospects of doing in space is fascinating, like science fiction. The result would look a little bit like auroras, although you wouldn't see them.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I put this picture in there to accentuate what this crazy dude's about to say. And then he talks about, the U.S. Air Force's DSX satellites and being able, those experiments can show how well VLF waves actually do, and maybe change what we think is needed to clear away electrons, which is what this is talking about here with the tether panel sucking radiation out, radiation belt remediation, as they would put it. However, it's protons in the inner belt that scientists have recently explored. Getting rid of them would potentially open up valuable new orbits for satellites.
Oh,
now,
Jesus.
I wrote this in 2015. Guess what's in low Earth orbit right now?
Satellites.
The freaking whole system
as well.
So yeah, I mean, because of Starfish Prime and the nuclear detonations that happened, it wiped out a bunch of satellites. So all these dudes, absolutely hilarious video right here. They came up with all kinds of things like the high volt, ways to short circuit the artificial radiation belts that could be made from either EMP or CMEs, coronal mass ejections. And then this fool said this. Wow, where is it? That's not it. This is what this Bortnick guy says. At present, we don't think there's any downside to not having them. Talking about the Van Allen belt.
Oh my God.
But as with all things geophysical, it's hard to know the complex interconnections between various systems and estimate the full effect of removing the radiation belts
Oh
completely.
my lord. Oh my lord.
That's the most
That's scary.
I can really say at the moment. Bro, you are officially crazy as hell.
Yeah.
Crazy
Arrest that
as
man.
hell. Jacob Bortnick. I mean, I'm just saying, you look crazy. You sound crazy. If you're talking about taking away
Insanity.
the entire radiation belt because we don't think there's any downside to not having them, bro, it's there for a reason. How about stop trying? These people are freaking crazy.
Where did the bit go? Where did the bit go where nature actually knows what it's doing? It's been doing this for a lot longer than we have.
no,
And it's been fine.
just no, Stella. These people, they're smarter than us. You don't
Smarter
know
than
what
God.
you're talking about. Just stay in your lane and just let them remove the radiation belts because this, kid at UCLA thought it was a good idea and nobody could give him a reason why he couldn't do what he wanted to do. That's just
the son of somebody important and rich, no doubt.
the thing is, while we're all, getting bombarded by people saying that, every single major weather event that happens is because of some kind of scientific Illuminati. Meanwhile, there's actually people saying things like this and possibly doing them. And that's the stuff that scares me.
Getting completely ignored. Nobody even listens to these psychos.
Nobody's paying attention. I always say the truth is scarier than fiction. At least for me. Like, I used to be addicted to fear porn and I believed everything that all these people would say. And the more I learned about it, the more I realized what an idiot I was then. Then I started to be able to find actual data and be able to, prove beyond a shadow of doubt the things that I was saying. But then I run into people like this, and then I'm going, this is worse than what I was originally talking about.
Yeah. It's definitely an addiction, whether people want to admit that or not. And the other thing that keeps people in here is they don't want to be seen to have been had. They'd rather live the lie. What's that famous Mark Twain quote?
It's Carl Sagan. Once you believe a bamboozle long enough that it's, I'm paraphrasing, that it's simply too painful to admit to yourself that you were wrong.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people live in that world where, you believed it for so long, especially in politics. Like we just had I don't know. Did you get any notice over there in Australia about what just recently happened here in America?
Weekend at Bernie's finally came to an end, didn't it? And
Yeah,
now you've got some orange guy in there.
Yeah, I mean, the orange band's back. It was, kind of like Star Wars. The Empire struck back for a little while, but now it's the Return of the Jedi. We're on to part 3. And people are melting down because they believe the propaganda so much. And I mean,
it's
after he said that, his 10-point plan for what he plans on doing, I can understand why a lot of people are freaking out because they're probably going to lose their jobs if they avoid jail. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people, the whole idea of narrative networks and repetition, just hearing these same things over and over again till they finally believe it so much that they're scaring their whole damn family, going, I don't think you're well. You need to calm down. Maybe you should take a break from the internet. They're like, no, but if I take a break from the internet, I won't get to see my next rad radars and what they're doing to the weather.
Yeah, it is. It's a very powerful tool, propaganda. And I mean, if anyone who thinks that MK Ultra finished, it didn't. it's called news and hype and fear porn and anything else that you want to put on it. It's still
was
going.
the warm up.
Yeah, exactly. That was just them figuring it out. Now it's in play. So we've just got to be smarter than them, basically, and that's not very hard, I don't think.
Well, I would say that it's not hard, but when Luke Eisman and Andrew Song from Make Sunsets threw some balloons in the air and geoengineered over Mexico, Mexico said, no, we're going to ban geoengineering. And what did America say? How about we update the Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972 to include geoengineering? So I'm still in the process of I still have not submitted my public comment because I'm
The
like,
NOAA
yeah,
petition.
I keep revising it. I keep adding new things. I take things away. I go and revise it again.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like I am stuck at why when they did it over in Mexico and they just outright said, you know what, we're banning geoengineering. But here in America, they go, how can we make this more legal and more transparent? How about we just say no? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really what I want to get out of this.
It shouldn't be happening at all by anybody, anywhere, anytime, for any reason. Well, it's like, I mean, the atmosphere belongs to everybody. What gives one group or one person or one corporation the right to do anything? Because what suits one person is not going to suit the other. So, there's enough stuff here to sort out. There's enough problems that we can probably put our minds to, like the plastic, for instance. That's the biggest one for me. Even that's probably creating. I mean, look at all the microplastics. No one's sort of jumping up and down about the fluoride in the water that much anymore. So I keep saying, let's
Well, I mean, to be
attack
fair,
some of the doable things.
yeah, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said one of the first things he's going to do is get the fluoride out of the water. So,
Well, will
I
he
mean,
though? I mean,
I know,
Hillary was going to get arrested too, wasn't she?
yeah, I know. Like right now, it's like, okay,
Do it now. Why
that
wait?
happened. He was elected. Now wait and see. This is like the
Yeah,
military slogan: "Hurry up and wait."
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We won't know for 2 years from now whether or not anything actually changed. But at the end of the day, you still got to try. And Jeff's really regretting saying, why don't we let Jim go first? An hour and 50 something.
Yeah, we're nearly up to 2 hours. We might
Is
get
it
to our
really?
show at some point. Yeah. That's all good. No, it's been an honor to have you aboard.
I've got to actually finish that NOAA petition tonight. And I need to make a video, even if it's only 15 minutes, to just say, just a quick reminder, you have to get your comment in on this NOAA law. You don't have to be from America, just anybody in the world. Tell these people, no. How about no? Ban geoengineering. It should not be allowed. Geoengineering is not weather modification. How about no?
Yeah. You mentioned that you'd spent a lot of time reading the T's and C's and all the rules and everything. Is there a requirement for things to be, every single T crossed and every I dotted and every single number quoted for it to be accepted, or can it be a little looser than that and more casual?
Nobody, and I've read hundreds of these NOAA. It's a NOAA Form 17-4. Under the environmental impact statement, they just write no. Like, no,
Oh, okay.
there's
It's
none.
that simple. About no.
I
Okay.
mean, literally, like the one that's really in question here with Make Sunsets, the dude made a mockery of the whole form. Like he's just like area of operation, all of Earth.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a joke. I mean, at the end of the day, the whole people and people get it confused. They act like it's a permission slip, but it's not. It's literally just, hey, I'm letting you, the government, know that I'm going to do this. And that's it. And if you don't let the government know that you're going to do this and they catch you, which is like slim to no chance unless you're
Good luck with that.
somebody videotapes you on, puts it on YouTube or TikTok or something.
Yeah.
It's like a $10,000 fine.
Yeah, I was going to say it was 10K, wasn't it? Yeah, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Which
hardly a
is
drop in the ocean.
ridiculously small when you're talking about today. That was written in 1972. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that was a deterrent back in 1972. I'm not thinking
Barely.
that it was. If you're any kind of company at all, maybe to an individual, but even then, there's kids with more college debt than that.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make sense to me.
No. All right. Well, I believe we should probably let you go. We have had a lot of your time, and we've been through a lot of awesome explanations on things. So thank you very much. I really hope that that's helped people understand a few more aspects of different wars and rumors of wars that are floating around.
Well, space weather modification is not weather modification. It is space weather modification. That's the part people don't get. So if you're not familiar, just Google the term space weather, realize what that is, and that's what these things, what ionospheric heaters are modifying, and that next rad Doppler radars don't have the power to modify big storms. Yeah, if you want to learn more about it, go check out my Substack or something, because I've written something on it already. If you don't, then be sure to leave a comment and say that Jim Lee guy's a shill, and you blame it all on me. Now, Jeff will make sense of the meteorology part, and you can understand how weather works. Because I don't, and I need to watch the rest of it later when Jeff actually explains it.
Well, I want a full report on my desk in the morning.
Exactly.
Right. Awesome. Jeff, would you like to say anything to Jim before we let this gentleman slink away?
You said a whole bunch of good words there, Jim. Thank you very much.
You're just liking the part where I said that you're smarter than me.
That'll be a short for sure.
Very great overview, and it even got into the next rad side and beyond. So it's like we got the full Monty there.
Well, I was totally in the Fox Mulder camp, wearing my "I want to believe" shirt, trying desperately to prove that next rads control the weather. I failed. So my challenge to anybody who believes that NEXRAD Doppler radars can control the weather, or that ionospheric heaters or any other radio frequency device on the planet, my challenge to you is this: if you think you could prove that, I will bring your ass live on my YouTube and you could try to explain it, and I'm going to make fun of you.
or maybe we could have a gentlemanly debate, and or lady debate even, and
there is a possibility that you could come on there and then I end up looking like a fool, and then I'm literally gonna high five you and be like, it is so on. I'm gonna be saying everything's controlled by them radio waves next week, and it's gonna be so on. But until that day, no, they don't affect the weather. I haven't seen any evidence whatsoever in freaking 20 years of doing this.
So you have officially passed the boogeyman baton on.
Yep, somebody else can figure that out and then prove me wrong. Change my mind.
The part that gets me is I brought up the anomalous propagation thing earlier about the trapping layers and stuff like that, and when you look at the temperature profile of the atmosphere, it's decreasing until it hits the tropopause. So that means it's going to be bending a certain way based on the temperatures, right?
Right.
And then once you hit the stratosphere, now it's going to bend in a different direction, and then when you hit the mesosphere, it bends the other way because it's cooling again. So who's calculating how that beam from that ionospheric heater is going to go bend, and off of that wall, like that Larry Bird commercial with McDonald's years ago in the 90s?
Well,
Jordan,
the real
off
difference,
the rim, off of the wall, through the net, nothing but hoop.
Like a pinball machine. Yeah.
It's like, who can do that? Who can see? I mean, the radiosondes are 150 miles apart. That gets you up into the lower stratosphere. So we don't have any measurements up in the upper stratosphere, or none in the mesosphere, as far as temperatures, other than, well, the ionosphere. What do you call them? Ionosondes? They're in the ionosphere. So there's nothing in between measuring those.
Well, there's MST radars. I didn't show those off.
Okay. So there is something to
yeah. They've got a radar for everything.
Got it all covered.
They've got a device for almost every layer. That's one of my favorite things to do is to just go and get a list of these radars and go hunt them down, playing Where's Waldo on Google Earth, because they'll mention them in a PDF, and then the coordinates they use will be like 3 miles off of where the actual location is. I've seen them up to like 50 miles off, where I've literally been just widening my area of search, changing different image layers. Like, all right, I'm going to use Bing, I'm going to use Esri, I'm going to use Google Earth. Can I visually see this thing or not that I'm looking for till I find it? And then I'm like, yes, put a pin in it. But yeah, they've got like the MATISCAP wind radars. They've got MST radars, which the hell is it? I'm forgetting what MST even means right now. It means mesospheric, stratospheric, and tropospheric radar. MST. So there you go. There's your mesosphere. I wasn't joking about that.
But how far apart are they?
I pulled that right out of my butt, Jeff, just for you. Like I was.
How far apart are they? If there's one per state, you're not going to have very good pictures of that.
No, there's very few of them actually. The MST they're usually like VHF radars, and they usually have like Yagi antennas. They basically look like those antennas that like the old telephone and what do you call them? The bunny ears.
Oh, the rabbit's ears, yeah.
The rabbit ear, telephone or television antennas. They kind of look like that. Just a field of them, and so they're like a lot. When I first started doing this, I thought they were HAARPs. Also, I was like, oh look, it's another phased array antenna system. I found a new HAARP. But no, they're MST radars. Like you have to like put all these into their categories of where they actually belong and what they do and all of that. But there used to be a UCAR database called the MATISCAP, MADISCAP, and it literally listed out every single one of these instruments in the world, and it was public. And now I have not been able to find the public version of that list because I want to like update all my radar lists and everything to see if there's anything new been developed. But being able to find that in like a central location where all of them are listed today, I mean, the internet.
Why did they take that away?
I don't know. I should call some. I mean, Jeff emailed the dude at freaking Tromso, and Axel from Guns N' Roses like emailed him back, and I should just probably call the guys at UCAR and be like, "Hey, can I get that list of like them radars? Because I need to update some things, and you guys took it away. And if not, can I get a login and password where I can see it? That'd be kind of cool."
They probably would accommodate though, because if you showed them your website, I'm sure that they'd.
I mean, I interviewed 2 dudes from UCAR when I went to the Weather Mod conference, and they almost passed out cold when I mentioned that I wanted to measure the chemicals in the rain. They're like, "Oh, you want to measure rainfall?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we can do that." And I'm like, "No, I want to measure what's in the rain." And the one dude looks at the PR dude, and he like literally his face turns, he flushes red.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's used to people being not interested at all in any of that.
Yeah, he's just like, "What did you just say?" And I was like, I mean, unless I'm just wrong, and I mean, is there any network of rainfall sensors on the planet that measures what's in the rain? And they're both looking at each other like, "What did this guy just ask me?" Like, and I'm going, "Why have you guys not? Has this not occurred to you that it might be important? You know what I mean? Or are you not interested in pollution at all, or like what effects this might be having on the ground or anything?
Water, maybe.
No, never came across. Never came up at a coffee meeting or anything. Okay, that's just
Not
weird.
rocket science, guys. Oh, maybe it is. Not sure. Oh well, I don't know. These people are just doing what they're told, following orders. Most of them, I think.
I mean, I feel bad for the guys, to be honest with you. They got stuck with the AMS meeting on the floor. You know what I mean? They're in a little booth talking about pop-up weather stations that, are cheaply made using PVC and can be put in third world countries so they have more weather stations. And then here comes me being an asshole to them, talking about, doing spectrometry on single particle mass spectrometry on freaking rainfall samples with an actuator and all sky cameras. And they're like, what? I don't know. I still don't know exactly what that reaction was, but it's just, they were like, you want to do what? Huh? Why? Who? Huh?
Security.
Yeah, for real, we were kicked out right after that. Because the next
Please
spot
remove these truth tellers.
there was NQTEL was there, and I'm like, that's the people who own the Tromso array, and NQTEL's a CIA front shell company, and we're gonna go there next. And we're sitting there eating a slice of pizza, and this dude's like, I know that he was watching us, like when we were, sitting there talking, we were sitting there eating, and then sure enough, the minute we got done eating and we got up to go over to the NQTEL table, that's when we were intercepted by AMS staff who took us in the hallway and claimed that, he was in one of the, lecture halls recording, and he wasn't. And he started to lose it. My camera guy, he started getting really upset. And I'm like, dude, calm down. Let me handle this. And he didn't calm down, and everything went to shit after that. We got kicked out. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. Like, because we were going to make a documentary out of the whole experience. And, the very next night was the meeting where basically we get to sit down with all these people that control the weather. And I mean, very expensive plates of, I think I picked a steak. He picked a chicken. I'm like, dude, steak. What? We're in Texas. But the point is, everybody's gonna be drinking. So, like, except me, I don't drink. So, of course, I'm gonna get a bunch of drunk people who say they control hurricanes, and they're scared I'm gonna pull a James O'Keefe on them or something like that. I mean, that's still my belief, which is why they wanted to get us out of there. They're like, well, tonight is the dinner, and we don't need these hooligans, coming there and secretly recording anything. But I don't know. You can.
Was he in trouble trying to find out some information?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But at the end of the day, I threatened to sue them. They ended up giving me my money back, and then I was like, I won't sue you if you promise never to bar me, from anything in the future, and y'all aren't gonna screw with me next time. And they said, well, as long as you don't break any rules, you're welcome to come back anytime in the future. And I got it in writing. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean,
even greet you with a nice glass of, I was going to say champagne, but you don't drink. Nice glass of Astro chicken juice or something. I don't know.
No, I will make exceptions. I've drank like 3, maybe 4 times since I quit drinking when I was 19 years old.
Probably a very smart decision.
Yeah, it is, because I'm an asshole. Just bottom line, because I don't have a off button. I just think it's a pleasure to be able to spend some time with the two of you on your stellar new production, which I'm absolutely thrilled that you two got together and decided to do this. And that's why and I did keep my promise, Jeff.
I know.
I told you, I said, I will not stop till this video hits 1,000 views. And sure enough, it went well over that last time I checked.
I think it was like 1,500 plus. It's like,
that's what, one of our shows?
Yeah.
Oh, I must check. I don't really.
Well, I looked at it.
I really need to keep my eye on that sort of stuff. I don't really. Yeah, I don't think
it's like it. Your number one video on here is like, I think, like 900 views. It's like, so I'm gonna have to make sure that this becomes the number one video on her channel.
Well, we don't monetize anything, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. As long as the info's getting out there and to the people, that's all we invest our time in, particularly. So hopefully. But you've certainly helped. Thank you very much for joining us, Jim. It's been awesome. And yes. Thank you for being our very first guest as well, because we had reserved that for you. And now that you're here, we can move on.
Check. She's like, all right, that's done. Check.
Tick the gym box. All right.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, Hurricane Helene, 1,500 views.
Oh, really? Okay.
Followed
Must
by
be-
Fallen Flowers by Stella Q 3 years ago.
yeah.
I was like,
Pretty old.
we got to beat that out, man. We got to beat that out. So,
There's some more coming. I've just got to get some time. All right. Well, but thank you very
Excellent.
much, Jim. It's been awesome.
Thanks, Jim.
appreciate you having me. Talking nerdy about them EMFs.
It's been fun to geek out. All right. Thank you to everybody who's been with us, and we'll catch you very soon. All the best.